No, so Shavua Tov, Erev Tov to everyone, and again a happy Didan Notzach, coming from the 5th of Tevet, the celebration of the Sforim. We're beginning our class right now, and we find ourselves in the new Sicha of the portion of Truma, contributions, and Bezat Hashem, everyone should see to it to give each and every one of us our contribution, especially in the light of the period that we're going through, in our study of Torah, in our observance of mitzvahs, and our giving of charity, of tzedakah. And this brings Teichef Umiyad, the Geula Shlema Vamitis. In the hard copy, we're on page 318, Ois base, and in the PDF file, so we're on page 1, Ois base. It's the left-hand column on the bottom. Left-hand column on the bottom. And the Rebbe began by talking about the great joy, the great simcha, as we enter the month of Adar. This is the sichas of the nights of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Shabbos. And Shabbos Kodesh of the portion of Truma in the year Tafshin Nun Beis, 5752, or 1992 in the Gregorian secular calendar. And the Rebbe opens up and says as follows: Hascholos Chodesh Adar Chala b'chama v'chama shonim b'shavua de Parshas Truma. We see that the commencement of the month of Adar during it falls during various years in the week of the portion of Teruma. And according to that which is known, that the holidays of the year have a connection to the portions of the Torah that are read, the week that they fall. And this is something that the Rebbe brings in the in footnote number 9 from it's a famous teaching from the Shloh HaKodesh, the Shnei Luchei Sabris, Rabbi Shah Halevi Horowitz, and the Chelik of Torah Bechsav, the beginning of the parsha of Vayeshev. And by the way, the Rebbe in many different places also brings it in the name of the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rav Menachem Mendel of Lubavitch. That the holidays of the year are all interconnected with the weeks and the portions of the week that they fall upon during that year, that are read that week. Tzarich lahovin, we need to understand hashaychus the chodesh Adar. What is the connection between the month of Adar, mishanichnas Adar marbim b'simcha, and as it's brought in the Shulchan Aruch, that from the time that we usher in the month of Adar, we are commanded to increase in our joy. And the period of time of which the mazel, the fortune, or the revelation of the spiritual revelation of the souls of Israel are revealed on a greater basis. How is it connected Parshas Teruma? How is it connected to the portion of Teruma? And in addition to the connection that we have to find to the general month of Adar, it also has to, we have to understand, how is it connected to this particular year that we see the month of Adar falls in? In the following context. Aleph, first of all, since it's a Jewish leap year, as we find ourselves in this year as well, so therefore we see that we have 2 months of Adar, Adar Aleph and Adar Beis. And now, in Parshas Truma, when we read the portion of Truma, we're at the beginning of the first month of Adar. Base, second of all, Beis Hayomim Deresh Chodesh Adar Rishon, both the days of Reish Chodesh, the beginning of the month of Adar Rishon, of the first Adar, Sha'areish Koil B'Seichei U'Manig is Kol Yemei HaChodesh, that the head, the beginning, the Reish Chodesh, includes within it, and it also has a leadership upon all the days of the month. Chalu b'mei gimel v'dalet b'shavua. They fell. The 2 days of Rosh Chodesh fell on the days of the week of Tuesday and Wednesday. So again, we have to see in particular how is it connected. How is the month of Adar connected to the portion of Truma, and how is the month of Adar, and specifically the joy of Adar, connected to Tuesday and Wednesday? Gimel. The Yuvan behagdim diuk beparshasenu. This, the Rebbe says, will be understood when we go into a specific detail in our portion, the portion of Truma. In the commandment of the Holy One, blessed be He, at the beginning of our portion, v'yikchu li truma, and they should take unto me a contribution. And this is the contribution that you should take from them. Gold, silver, and copper. Yedua hashayla. The question is known. Why is it that the contributions that are given to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle, why do these contributions begin with the contribution of zahav, of gold? This is in addition to the general question that the details should have been written according to our intellectual comprehension. The details in the Torah should have been written min hakal, from that which is the lowest, el hakoved, to that which is the highest. Leizu avzu. Because then we have the rule that one includes the other, and as we go higher, so the higher one includes all the lower ones. But in our case that we see before us, we see that this order is even more appropriate than in general, as we see that we have this klal, that we go from the lowest to the highest. Why? Because here we're talking about the contributions to the tabernacle. This is the obligation of all the children of Israel, the entire Jewish nation. Every single individual according to the contribution of the individual's heart. Like it states in the parasha, and they shall take unto me a contribution from each and every individual, that which his heart has the desire to give. And in simplicity, the Rebbe says, there were certainly differentiations between the person that was poor and the person that was wealthy. Even though we're told that everyone was wealthy, but some people were extra wealthy. And in the contribution to the tabernacle, not all people were equal, or not all people had the equal opportunity to be able to give. Because it says ish lifi nidvas, the equally truma, and it goes according to that every single person should do according to their heart's desire. Therefore, it would be more appropriate to begin the contributions with silver or with copper. Shehem mitzuyim yoser etzel kol bnei Yisrael, for they are more commonly found by all the Jewish nation. Dvarim shebehem hem mishtavim yoser, and these are things that all the Jewish nation are more have more an equality in regard to the possession of silver or gold or copper. And only afterwards to go and to enumerate or to mention the gold, of which is found mainly by those Jews that are even more wealthy, the ones that have greater wealth than others. And this is accordingly to how we find the other contributions that come later on, after this. That all the concepts, milvad zov batchila, besides gold at the beginning, are in proportion to those that are giving the contributions. Batchila baim zov kesef v'nechoshes. At the beginning comes gold, silver, and copper. Sheshloshtem hayu etzel reiv bnei Yisrael. That those three were found by the majority of the Jewish nation, in the possession of the majority of the Jewish nation. The whole Yisrael and all the Jewish nation, kol ish, each individual, nodvu mizela mishkan, gave this from these metals a contribution to the tabernacle, for the tabernacle. Lachar miken bat chelis vargaman, and afterwards comes the threads that were in the blue color, the purple color, and the telas shani, and the red color, the sheish v'izim, and the flax, and the goats, hairs, the eris elim damim, and the skins of rams that are ma'adamim, that were a reddish color, the eris tchoshim, and the skins of the tachash, which was according to what we're taught, a multicolored animal that it had the skin that was multicolored. Shal ze kosuv, that in regard to these it states that only those individuals that had the tcheles, that had this color of blue or sky blue, they brought their contribution. Because there was only a minority of people that had these particular colors, these particular matters that were able to be given to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And afterwards it speaks about the acacia wood, kol ish asher nimtza itei. And again, all individuals that the acacia wood was found by them. Why? Because there was even a greater minority of people that had the acacia wood found in their possession. And the last matters that were given as a contribution to the Mishkan, shemen lamor v'gemer, oil, olive oil, lamor, for the illuminating of the kindling of the golden candelabra. The avnei shoham, and stones, the precious stones of shoham, the avnei miluim, and the precious the other precious stones that went and were placed in the garments of the high priest, of the Kohen Gadol. Shirak hanesim heviu, that these precious stones only the leaders of each tribe brought. Because the other Jews didn't have these precious gems and stones in their possession. And especially according to the commentary, V'hanisim heviu es avnei shoyam, that the leaders of the tribes brought the stones of Shoham, anonim hevium. There's a commentary that says that which it states that the leaders of the tribes brought the stones of Shoham and all the other precious gems that were placed in the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. It says anonim heviom, that they were brought upon clouds from other from other whereabouts. Hashem made a miracle, and they were brought. These stones were brought upon clouds, and they were brought from the clouds to the leaders of the tribes to give as a contribution to the Mishkan, which is, again, we're talking about a minority of a minority that merited to receive the miraculously these gems, these precious stones. And according to this, according to the continuation of the contributions as they are enumerated in the Torah, the first three metals that were mentioned as contributions to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle, gold, silver, and copper, should have been in the opposite direction. In other words, gold should have came what? Last. And that which was most commonly found by the Jewish nation, a silver or a copper, they should have came first. Because we see that we have an order from the Kal El HaKoved, from the lowest in value or in preciousness to the highest. For we see that a greater minority of Jews were able to bring gold in comparison to the silver and the copper. And here the Rebbe kind of recaps in order to go and to give us an explanation of the Reka, of the background. And the Rebbe says, and this is despite the fact that there was a great amount of gold, silver from the spoils of the Egyptians, and that were taken out of Egypt, and Bisa Sayam, and the spoils of everything that was washed up onto the land after the splitting of the Red Sea and the drowning of the Egyptians in the Red Sea. K'mayim Chazal, as our rabbis of blessed memory teach, Ein lecha kol echad ve'echad miYisrael shelo hayu imay tish'im chamerim luvim te'unim mikaspa ve'zahava shel Mitzrayim. That we did not find in the desert any Jewish individual that did not have with him in his possession 90 Libyan donkeys. Libyan donkeys are donkeys that are very healthy and great and in their dimensions, very big donkeys that can carry a very heavy load. And everyone that came out had at least 90 of these donkeys weighed down in gold and silver. Therefore, in simple understanding, so we've in the possessions of the Egyptians, and therefore later on, when it was passed on to the possession of the Jewish nation, the children of Israel, there was Yeser Kesef Unachoshes Mizav. There was more silver and copper than in comparison to gold. Because that which is a more precious metal, like gold, the amount that it exists in the possession of human beings is usually a lesser amount than in comparison to other metals like silver and copper. Ve'adarabba, and how much more so, mishum kachu yakar. Therefore, gold is more valuable in its price than silver or copper. Uvezegufa, and this itself, ba'ashirus ayu chilukim b'vnei Yisrael gufa kanizbar le'el. Even in the great wealth that each and every individual Jew had, there still were differences in the amount of wealth that one Jew had and the greater amount of wealth that another Jew possessed. Okay, so now what's going on? How come the Torah enumerates the gold first and only afterwards the silver and the copper? But the Rebbe goes on with the question. We're not finished with the questions. Yeseir mizu, even more so. Neisav l'chashav bnei Yisrael haya yeser nechoshes mikesef v'yeser kesef mizav. In regard to the fact that the children of Israel had more copper than silver and more silver than gold, like we just explained, we find that even in the contributions themselves that were later on counted and enumerated and written down, they were all reported and written in the Torah. The amounts of silver and copper that the Jewish nation gave as contributions was greater than the amount of gold that the Jewish nation gave to the tabernacle, to the Mishkan. Kamafurish Baramban, as the great Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, the Nachmanides explains, V'chol ish asher hinif tenufas zahav lo hayu rabim kemarimei hakesef hanechoshes, that all people that gave the contribution of gold, there were not as many as those that gave the contributions of silver and copper. And the haroma, in other words, the contribution that was given, raised and given from gold, was not as much as the silver and copper. And the simple explanation the Rebbe says is, for the making of the tabernacle and the vessels of the tabernacle, there was a greater need of silver and copper in comparison to the need that was needed of gold in the making of the tabernacle, in the making of the vessels of the tabernacle. Come super beprotius beparshas beperek beparshas pekude, as is explained in detail in the following portion, the portion of not the following portion, but the last portion of the book of Shmos, of Exodus, the portion of Pekude. That according to this, the question that we just asked becomes even greater, even stronger. Why is it that the contributions that are enumerated, that Moshe Rabbeinu is commanded to take from the Jewish nation, why does it begin with silver and only afterwards in the order of, why does it begin with gold and only afterwards mentions to take as a contribution the silver and the copper? It is impossible to say, the Rebbe says, Shatira Moina is Yud Gimel or Tesvav Hadvarim Behesim L'Seidah Chashivusam. It's impossible to say that the Torah enumerates the 13 or the 15 things that were contributed, the different opinions, that were contributed to the Mishkan according to their importance. V'zavu achoshuv beinehem, and therefore it's gold, which is the most important, choshuv yeser mikesef and choshes, more important than silver and copper, is mentioned first. Why can't we say this? The Rebbe explains, Ki Aleph, first of all, Avnei Shoam v'Avnei Miluim, the stones of Shoam and the stones that were brought for the garments of the Kohen Gadol, Shehem dvarim yesir chashuvim me'advarim aksuvim lifnei zeh. They are things that are more precious and important than those things that are written before them. Nimnim rak b'seif. They are counted only at the end, like we mentioned earlier. Base, and second of all, the Iker, and this is the main concept, in the commandment to the giving of the contributions to the tabernacle, for the tabernacle, al yedei Yisrael, by the nation of Israel. The importance of that which was given as a contribution doesn't really play a role. It's not relevant, the importance of that which was given. But this circumstance, the situation of the Jewish nation in actuality, as they gave their contributions, and the need for these items in the tabernacle. And in both of these points that we just mentioned, the Rebbe says, we mentioned as earlier that there was a greater amount of silver and copper than the amount of gold that was needed in the construction of the tabernacle and the vessels of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, as explained above. And furthermore, we need to understand what is the instruction for the generations to come, because we today we don't build an actual tabernacle with the vessels of the tabernacle. We're not giving contributions of gold, silver, and copper, and so on, and precious gems to any particular building of anything that has to do with the Mishkan, that has to do with the Beis Hamikdash. So what is the Rebbe asks, what is the Hayra, what is the instruction, L'deres, for all the generations to come, Hanil Medes, that is learned from Mikach Shezav, Hu Harishen Min Nidves HaMishkan, that Zav takes the first place when the Torah enumerates the contributions that Moshe Rabbeinu is meant to take from the Jewish people, from the children of Israel, in order to go and to build the Mishkan and the vessels of the Mishkan and the garments of the Kohen Gadol. Now, if anyone wants to hear the answers to the questions, obviously we have a good reason to be able to be here the same time, Be'ezrat Hashem, next week, and then we'll learn the answers and the reply that the Rebbe gives to these questions. Yechi Adonenu, Moreinu v'Rabbeinu, HaMelech HaMoshiach Leilam Voed, and Be'ezras Hashem, it should be Teichef u'Miyad Mamesh. We'll be able to sit together and learn all these answers in the third and the eternal Beis Hamikdash immediately now with the revelation of the Rebbe Shlitah Melech HaMoshiach. Yechi Adonenu, Moreinu v'Rabbeinu, HaMelech HaMoshiach Leilam Voed.
Amen.